According to Statista, the United States is one of the highest social media penetration rates in the world. In 2019, an estimated 246 million Americans used social media to post pictures, like and comment on content, and send private messages. With over 70% of the US population currently possessing a social media account, these platforms and services have become some of the most popular activities over the past decade. Furthermore, it is estimated that by the year 2023, the number of social media users across the United States will increase to an astounding 257 million people. And the number globally stands at 4.5 billion social media users. Therefore, I pose the question to you. Are you an online influencer who hangs on every like, comment, or share? Do you need a digital detox? Well, if you answered yes or are on the fringe of doing so, you're in luck today because I had the humbling privilege of sitting down with Andrew Ryder, an online coach and business owner who helps people put down their Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram accounts and still be okay. He joined me this week to provide some helpful hints and tips on how to do that effectively. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. Andrew, if you're ready, we'll welcome you to the program, and we're excited to talk about some digital detox with you this afternoon. So great to see you, and thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin, for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, Andrew, I know that you had to go through your own personal sort of digital detox to live a more fulfilling life. So, I'll start you off by just asking you to reflect on that experience for me.
Sure. Yeah. So, my life was kind of like that Adam Sandler movie, Click. If you've seen that, he has the remote control to his life, and he has the ability to stop or pause, or he can skip ahead if he doesn't want to be a part of whatever's going on in the moment. He can fast forward, and he ends up fast forwarding through the majority of his life. He fast forwards through all the little moments and all of the beautiful moments in his life, and I kind of found myself doing that over the last 10 or even 15 years. I was fast forwarding through just all of the day-to-day things, just trying to get to the point where I was successful, where I was living the dream, the things that you see online on social media, and just get to the point where, life was good. And then I could kick back and relax and, pull up a chair on the beach and just hang out. Right. And, I found that I was missing so many beautiful moments and so many great things in my life that were happening every day because I was seeking out this future, right? And as I was going through this process, I was kind of the typical Facebook lead. I was going around and I was commenting on people's ads, and I was looking at their posts, downloading their lead magnets. I was getting on the phone, but I never really wanted to buy anything. And I was just kind of looking for the answer, right? I was looking for the one thing, the cheat sheet that would show me how I could just be successful and then overnight, build this big business that, provided for every need that I had. And that caused a lot of strain internally on my life. I was so focused on the things that I didn't have, on how much harder I needed to work to get there, on how behind I was in my life, when really, I have so many things to be thankful for. I have, I'm so blessed. I have a great life. I just needed to change the way that I looked at it and the way that I framed it. And so for me, going through that digital detox and trying to be more intentional with the way that I spend my time and the information that I consume really helped me to reframe the way that I see where I'm at in my life and the things that I want to spend my time doing.
And can you tell me how do you think this transformation has positively affected your life now and how you view it?
Yeah, well, I think that primarily it's the difference between the stress and the speed of trying to move as fast as you can to achieve this ideal lifestyle, that you'll see other people living, or sort of the idealized income and lifestyle. And so for me, it's more about slowing down and taking advantage of what I have in the day to sit here and have dinner with my girlfriend, right? And to be in the moment and to look at her and to see her and to have a conversation, actually taste the food that I'm eating, instead of, it's so easy to be sitting at dinner, but you're actually thinking about the business, right? You're thinking about all the things you have to do tomorrow and all of the work that needs to be done. That can consume your every moment that you're awake. And even just laying in bed, you can be thinking about all the things you need to do tomorrow. But really what you want to be doing is keeping your attention in the moment, right? When I'm at dinner, keeping my attention on Kristen, right? Having that conversation, spending that time together. And really, then when I'm working, during the day, I can spend that time working, but I don't want to spend the time that I'm working thinking about something else, and the time that I'm supposed to be spending, with my girlfriend thinking about working, right? So it's helped me to really prioritize the way that I spend my time and to keep my focus in the present.
And can you just tell me? I know that you help other online influencers sort of go through this digital detox uh, as well. And I'm also curious to know what would be your message to online influencers who are obsessed with always creating new content. What would be your message in terms of the importance of taking a pause?
Yeah, well, I think that as an influencer or as an online coach, it's very important to be creating content and to be putting, thought leadership pieces out into the marketplace and showing your audience, hey, this is how we respond to this type of situation. This is how you can improve your life or improve whatever it is that you teach, right? But I guess I would say to anyone who's feeling overwhelmed, or they're feeling like no matter how fast that they run, they can't keep up, or even, so much as just that you're not getting the traction that you want to get in your business or in your life. You're constantly learning and reading and producing, but you're not really getting anywhere with it. I think the number one thing that I would say is to reconsider and to be more intentional with the things that you're consuming. It's so easy to want, like, to go on Facebook and say, I'm gonna post this piece that I've written, right? But you end up getting caught up in everything else that's going on. You catch yourself scrolling, right? And even for me, like, I'll have this great idea for a content piece that I want to write, and I'll be like, oh, this idea is so good. This is exactly what my audience needs to hear. And I'll like I'll start writing it, and then I'll go online and I'll see, like, the first thing that I see I'll open up Instagram or Facebook or something. First thing I'll see is somebody else is riffing on that idea that I had, that was so good. And I thought it was unique. And it just takes a little bit away from you. It takes a little bit of momentum. And then, the next thing you see is somebody else is so successful and they're doing so well. And for me, it just wasn't a good place for me to be. And I'm not saying that you need to be off social media, but to separate your consumption from your creation, right? And to find a way to produce from within yourself that message that you have that no one else has, that you hear, in the quiet moments. You can hear that voice talking to you, that voice that says, this is your calling, this is your purpose, right? To produce from that perspective rather than from the perspective of of what's going on online.
Yeah, so sort of find your secret sauce within moderation and still being able to find your inner self, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I know I asked you about your online business before, but can you tell me what are some of the principles that you work with people when you work with them to sort of uh, when they become a client and they want your help in sort of managing an online life?
Sure. Yeah. So I primarily work with online coaches who they're not brand new to online business. Maybe they've tried a couple of other things, and what ends up happening usually is there's so many different people that you can learn from online, right? And you end up putting together sort of a combination of different approaches from different leaders or gurus, and you find yourself struggling to keep up with all of the different methodologies. And specifically, the main thing that coaches are doing right now, especially on Instagram or on Facebook, is this organic launch model, which basically means that you will send out a bunch of you'll post a bunch of content, you'll reach out to people, you'll engage with them, you'll get them looking at your stuff, and you'll get them to join. You'll have this big launch event, and you'll get them to join a typically 90-day or 3-month program where you teach them how to go from point A to point B, teach them how to solve a problem, and then at the end of that, the program's over, and you go on. You get more people, new people excited, right? You get them to join your program, and you just keep repeating that launch after launch every 3 months or so. And it sounds good on paper, but you end up having very inconsistent income, and you end up spending a lot of time going after people, trying to basically beg them to join your program. And so the way that I help these coaches is to help them, for me, simplicity is the name of the game. I want to create systems and processes for your business that are as simple as possible, not overly simplified, but not overly complex, right? We want them to be to operate for you and to work for you in a way that gives you more time to focus on delivering an amazing result for your client, or to focus on creating that next content piece, or even just to take some time for yourself. And so an example of that would be instead of taking a new round of clients every 90 days, and then just ditching them at the end of the 90-day program, I would recommend that you take those clients who've gone from, say, point A to point B, take them to point C. There's so many people who will go through these programs, and after 90 days, maybe they didn't get all the way to point B, or maybe they just, they're ready to go to point C with you, right? So by opening up the potential for them to continue to work with you in some capacity, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's in a recurring income product like a monthly newsletter or something that you offer, that's a huge opportunity for you to make a very easy sale. one of the greatest copywriters of all time, Gary Halbert, says that your best list is your existing customers. So by taking your existing customer list and then selling them something else, whether that's selling them from point B to point C, or continuing to help them on their pursuit of point B after that, after that 9-week course or 3-month program or whatever, right? It's a very easy way to add a recurring income core to your business that's going to keep your income stable over time. And it's going to prevent you from having to continue to go out and get cold new leads and convert them over into a high ticket offer, every month or every couple of months. And it's going to free up more of your time to just really spend delivering that amazing result that you can get them.
And I know that building on what you just said, I know that one of your philosophies is the importance of building long-term relationships instead of transactions. And I really think that also helps you in creating and generating new business. So can you tell me about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Whether you call them clients or customers or prospects or leads, or if it's just traffic, whatever you're calling it, it's a person, right? Ultimately, you're doing business with another human being. Even, if it's business to consumer niche, it's a person on the other end of that transaction. But even if it's a business to business niche and you're selling like software to a company, there's going to be a person on the other end of that transaction who's buying your product or your service, right? And so I want you to think of it, think of them as a person and think of it as building a relationship with that person instead of just trying to get them to buy your product or service. And that's a big mindset shift in the difference between, well, I call it circles and lines, but really the difference between the launch model where you're getting, trying to get as many transactions as possible every month so that you can keep your income steady, versus building a community or building a tribe of people who believe what you believe, and they're committed to this journey for the long term. And so when you focus on building a relationship with the human being on the other end of that transaction, right? When you're focused on how can I make this human a better person, a better version of themselves, right? Like that's what people want out of coaches, whether it's me as a business coach to my clients, or whether it's, a health coach or whatever type of coaching you're in. That's your clients want you to help them self-discover what's already within them. The solution to their problems is inside of them already. And if you can do that, they will stay with you for a long time. They will continue to work with you and continue to pursue that version of excellence that is not a 3-month thing. It's a lifelong pursuit. But, as you said, it also helps you to generate new leads as well. And that's really an opportunity where when you create these lifelong fans, these raving fans that love you, and you build a relationship with them, they're going to be so much more likely to refer other people to you. And, a lot of the idea around organic marketing is referrals, is getting people to share your content or to share your program with other people, right? And so if you're just trying to get someone to download your ebook or to join your program, you're not going to build that relationship. And so you're not going to get the referrals. But if you do build that relationship, you will get a ton of referrals.
And I know that you have a philosophy that we share on how to build personal motivation or finding success within yourself to be a leader. So can you expand on that for me?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I had this realization when I was watching that it's my favorite business movie. It's not really about business directly, but have you seen 300, the movie about the Spartans?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that movie came out when I was in middle school, and for like middle schoolers, it was the coolest thing. The Spartans are fighting against the this giant army of Persian warriors and beasts, and they have magic and all these different things that they use to fight against the Spartans, it's a small group of warriors, led by their king Leonidas. And really the difference between Leonidas and Xerxes, who is the god king of the Persians, that's really what I mean by becoming a leader in a world full of followers. So, when Xerxes comes into the scene for the first time, he's riding on this giant pyramid. It looks like it weighs a couple of 1,000 pounds, and he's sitting 30 feet in the air above everyone else, right? And he is riding this throne that's being moved across the land by hundreds of his worshipers who are underneath it. They've got the throne on their backs, and they're carrying him across the battlefield. And then when he says attack, and he'll send this horde of his worshipers in to attack the Spartans, right? But no matter what he says to do, he sits on top of his throne from a distance, high above the battlefield, watching the chaos, right? But contrast that with Leonidas, who's the Spartan king. He is on the front line. He's in the phalanx with his warriors. They're all holding a shield. They're all holding a spear, and the success of each other, they all depend on one another to hold that line. And the warriors in Leonidas's army are all capable of being a leader in that army. They're all capable of being in the front of the phalanx and defending the rest of the tribe, right? But when you look at Xerxes' army, all of his worshipers are trapped under the weight of that throne that they're carrying. And you see this in the online business world. There's a lot of gurus that ride around on these thrones that are powered by the contributions and the energy and the motivation and the money that they extract from their worshipers. And so they ride around on top of the world, looking down on everyone else, whereas their worshipers, they're trying to build a business. They're trying to become a leader, but they can't do it when they're buried under a 2,000-pound pyramid, right? So in order to be able to lead your audience in this world where there's thousands of people underneath these thrones, you have to drop the throne. You have to step out from underneath it, and you have to become a warrior in Leonidas's army, where you have the tools, you have the capabilities, you have the sword and shield in hand to go into battle, to fight for your audience, to fight for your tribe, and to teach them, to give them the tools that they need to succeed in whatever it is that you help them to do.
Yeah, and I guess to follow up on that, my next question would be, I know you're a very strong believer in the fact that we don't always have to consume and grind it, always to direct message people in order to live as simple a life. So can you expand on that for me as well?
Yeah, so that's kind of it's a pet peeve that I have is doing a bunch of direct outreach, or like a common Instagram growth strategy is follow unfollow, right? Where you go out and you follow a bunch of people who are in your marketplace, and you hope that they'll follow you back, so then you can start a conversation with them. And yeah, it's completely backwards in the way that you want to generate leads for your business, because you are pursuing the leads. You're going out, you're reaching out to them, and it positions you in a way where you need their business, where you're dependent on them, as opposed to other marketing methods where you're positioned as the leader, as someone who people will are attracted to you. People are magnetized to you, right? And so while we're on the topic of organic traffic, that's a big thing. People want to do organic marketing, right? And that's how they get into this rabbit hole of follow or DMing people, is because they're not getting that organic attraction from there just by posting on Instagram, right? Like that's the idea that from the Field of Dreams, which is an old Kevin Costner movie, that if you build it, they will come, right? But it doesn't happen in business, right? So you have to attract people to you without going door to door, knocking and begging and saying, hey, you should come check out my offer. So I guess the advice that I would have there is exactly what we're doing right now. It's to get on a podcast interview and to share your expertise, share your vision for your audience, share, valuable information with them on how they can take that step in that direction that they want to go, right? And the reason for getting on a podcast interview, there's really 3 psychological factors that strongly change the dynamic, and they change the positioning that you have with your prospective client, right? When they see you on a podcast versus seeing you, in their DMs saying, hey, do you want to chat about XYZ, right? So the first psychological factor is called the halo effect, right? And I think we've all experienced this. If you ever listen to like Tim Ferriss or Joe Rogan or someone, when they have a guest on, they'll introduce the guest and you'll think, wow, that person must be really good at what they do if they're good enough to get on Tim Ferriss, right? Because everyone, Tim Ferriss interviews the best of the best, right? And so if this person is getting interviewed on that show, they must be the best at what they do, right? And so the podcast host, Kevin, in your case, like you are building this relationship with the people who listen to you, right? The people who hear your voice in their ear on a daily basis, day after day, month after month. They listen to all your podcast episodes. They build a relationship with you over time. And so for me, as a guest on your show, you get to share that relationship with me by you share the halo, that's why it's called the halo effect. You share the halo of your influence and the rapport that you've built with your audience. You shared it over to me. So that's the first psychological factor, right? The second one is the podium effect. And this is named after back in the day when seminars were a big thing. Obviously there's not a whole lot of seminars going on in person right now, but there's virtual summits or even podcast interviews. But the idea is that if you're physically standing behind a podium, it makes people watching your content or your interview more, they more highly value your expertise or your opinion than if you were to give the same speech just, probably sitting in the kitchen like I am right now. I'll have to get like a little portable podium that I can stick in here. But the idea is that if you're speaking from stage or if you're behind a podium, it imbues you with an extra layer of expertise, right? So that's the second psychological factor. The third factor that you can get is called the pre-frame. And this is typically when the podcast host introduces their guests. You'll hear this a lot in like Tim Ferriss, to use that again. He'll say, here, my guest today is so-and-so, and they have all these qualifications, right? And then they start to go into the interview. When the audience hears that pre-frame, it gives them a view of this person who's going to be interviewed, right? And if you've read Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman, he's a Nobel Prize winning psychologist, right? And he talks about this effect, the effect that the pre-frame has in, they did this, researchers did this experiment where they had a guest lecturer at it was like a college, just a guest lecturer, and half of the class got a bio on this guest lecturer and it explained his qualifications, and then they had one sentence that was different, right? One sentence for half the class said, he's a really nice guy. The other half of the class got the same list of qualifications, but it said he's not nice. You know, he's a little rude or he's a little aggressive, right? There was just one little word, nice versus aggressive, right? One side paints him in a very positive way, and the other side paints him in a somewhat negative way, right? And so they did the lecture, and afterwards they asked the students what they thought about the lecture, right? And the students who received the he's very nice introduction, they viewed everything that he did was like, wow, he told the most amazing stories, and he was so genuine, and he really cares about the students, and he really cared about, he did a great job. But the people who thought he was rude or aggressive, they reported the lecture as being sort of manipulative, and he was really just trying to sell them something, and they didn't appreciate any of the stories that he told. They thought that he was aggressive and that he was rude. And so the pre-frame that you get in a podcast interview gives you that same opportunity. It gives you the opportunity to control the way that the audience is going to see you and to view your expertise in the marketplace. And so that's why the pre-frame is one of the most powerful things that you can get in business. They say that you never get a second chance to make a first impression, right? So this, by taking advantage of the pre-frame and having, a podcast host introduce you in a favorable way, it makes everything else that you say hinges on that, right? So if the host comes in and says, Andrew is not very good at what he does, but we're going to interview him anyways, no one's going to listen to what I say, right? But if you say, Andrew's like energetic, or he's really passionate, he really cares about his audience, and they're going to see that in the way that I communicate. They're going to see that in the energy or the stories that I bring to the interview. Does that make sense?
It certainly does. So you're telling me I have to bring out your good side when I introduce you. And my final question for you is, I want to get to know you a little bit. You've referenced both movies and your girlfriend during the course of today's interview. So my final question for you is, once you are done with business, how do you personally digitally detox?
Yeah, and we talked about this. We were emailing, a couple of days ago, and I told you that I was up visiting family. And for me, like you said, it's all about family. I completely agree. For me, it's all about family. This time of year, we've got really nice weather. Usually, it's a little cloudy today, but it's all about getting outside, hanging out, just like we were playing cornhole, we're playing some croquet, just chasing the dog around the yard, laughing and playing together. That's really what it's all about. And those are the moments I live for. So.
Very cool. Well, Andrew, I want to thank you for a few minutes with me today. Really enjoyed our conversation on how to digitally detox. I'll put some of what we talked about today in practice for my personal life, because sometimes, I have to digitally detox myself. But anyway, I want to thank you for your time and for being here this afternoon. It's most appreciated.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, and it's it's a constant battle. It's not something that you just nail it the first time around. And I always am. You're always getting bombarded with things, no matter how hard you try, and it's always something you have to work to continue to detox. But yeah, I find that it really helps to improve your outlook and your overall fulfillment and satisfaction. So,
And yeah, fantastic. Thanks so much for being here, buddy.
all right, thanks, Kevin. Take care.
Andrew, we're done. That was